We round a bend in the road, and there in the meadow, just beyond the trees, there are not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but six. Yes, 6 moose. I didn't know that they came in groups that large. They pay us no mind and keep on eating, their long heads lifting and dropping. Occasionally, they lift their gangly legs and make their way to the next patch of bushes. We watch them for, maybe 5 minutes before we continue up the road. Where the road ends, we disembark from the truck. Cora climbs into her backpack. Daryl, thankfully, is the one who carries her. And we set off up the trail. We start in pine forest, which gives way to aspen stands, and the leaves rustle together in the breeze like gentle applause. We leap and, yes, sometimes stumble across streams, mostly avoiding soaking our boots. We climb over fallen trees, and occasionally we pause to catch our breath or to make sure we haven't completely lost the path. Nope, still good. We're just about ready to turn around when the path opens out into an alpine meadow with mountains on 2 sides of us. We scramble up one more rise, and there we are in one of the most breathtaking places I have ever been. A stream winds through the meadow, and I half expect to see a bear look up from eating berries in a cluster of bushes, but all is still, no bears. I watch as my daughter, completely at ease in the world, rushes toward the stream, ready to explore. You will go out with joy and be led forth in peace. Even the mountains and the hills will burst into song before you. All the trees of the fields will clap their hands. In this ongoing pandemic, we are hard-pressed to find the places where it seems like all is right with the world, where the mountains and hills sing with joy and trees clap their hands. For me, indeed, like many of us, as we have heard this morning, wilderness, nature, the mountains, streams, forests, and fields have offered this kind of solace, and I feel so fortunate that we have access to the mountains, to the woods, to these streams. This morning's scripture readings, one of the lectionary texts for today, was written during the Israelite exile in Babylon. A generation before this scripture was written, the Israelites had been forced to leave their beloved city of Jerusalem, forced to become strangers in a strange land. And now there are none still living who remember the home from which they came. In today's scripture, the prophet Isaiah calls the Israelite people to leave the homes and relationships they have created in Babylon and reclaim the city which they have left, a city now almost unrecognizable. I dare say it's not a stretch to say that this time of pandemic feels something like exile. Worshipping from our kitchen tables, living room sofas, or porch steps. And yes, we know, of course, that God is present in these spaces, as God is present in all spaces, but we miss the splendor of our sanctuary. The light streaming through stained glass windows, the cross against a Colorado blue sky background, the sound of our voices lifted together in prayer and praise. We miss touching and hugging, shaking hands and exchanging a smile in person. We miss conversation over coffee or treats, and we know that none of those things are really safe right now. Yes, this time feels like exile. As we navigate a summer without story time at the library, public pools, camps, mission trips, and vacations to visit family or to explore the world. As we navigate illness, aging, injury, and even death in a world that seems wildly unfamiliar. Strange people in a strange land. And then the prophet's words, you will go out with joy and be brought back in peace. The whole world will celebrate with you. The mountains will sing and the trees will clap. This promise seems naive at best, misplaced. How can Isaiah speak of joy and peace when an entire nation, an entire people is exiled from the city with which their identity is so closely tied? As I offered in a sermon on rejoicing last year, joy is actually subversive. Believe it or not, joy is a form of resistance. As Christians, we know that God's kingdom is not yet fully realized, and yet joy, all the things we named, proclaim the part of God's kingdom that is already here, already among us. Joy attests that we are enough, that we have enough, that we can be grateful and generous because the world is God's and everything in it. Joy is the echo of God's words at creation that the world is good. It is indeed very good. Can you hear it? The mountains echoing this proclamation that the world is good. Can you hear them singing? You know the sound when the wildflowers are so thick that you can hear the bees buzzing even from a distance. And technology. Thank goodness that we can weave in and out of our technology. You know the sound of the mountains singing. When the wildflowers are so thick that you can hear the bees buzzing even from a distance. When bird calls fill the air. When the cry of a lone coyote punctuates the night song of crickets. The mountains are singing. And the trees clap their hands. The wind rustling through the aspen leaves like gentle applause. You know the sound. See, even in the midst of exile, we know the joy this text is talking about, and I dare say our children and our youth know it best of all. The joy of sweet, sticky watermelon juice dripping down your chin. Chasing bubbles in the sunshine, the first pea shoot poking its way through the top layer of soil, tender tomatoes or strawberries plucked straight from the plant, slobbery dog kisses when you walk in the door, a cat asleep in your lap, leaves whispering in the breeze, an unexpected phone conversation with a friend, that tug on the end of your fishing line that says, yes, you've got a bite. Dance, laughter, affection, skin touching skin, singing in the car, music in the kitchen, the quiet, irreplaceable, and companionable presence of a daughter or son, the sheer intoxicating beauty of our world. You will go out with joy and be brought back in peace. The whole world will celebrate with you. The mountains will sing and the trees will clap. Friends, joy is the act of giving ourselves away. Before we need to, before we are asked to, joy is practiced generosity. And in today's scripture, joy is also practiced trust. It is letting go and trusting that this exile will end. We don't know when or what that will look like, but we trust. Joy is trusting that we don't need to know or understand all that is happening in our world. Joy is letting go and trusting that we are God's, that the word that issues forth from God's mouth will not return empty, even if we cannot yet understand or imagine what its fullness can look like. Joy is an act of resistance. It is practiced gratitude. It is practiced trust It is connection expressed in our bodies. Even in exile, we are called to joy. Indeed, we are promised it. You will go out with joy and be brought back in peace. Even the mountains and the hills will sing before you, and the trees of the fields will clap their hands. In poet Mary Oliver's words, if you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, do not hesitate. Give in to it, for God is already here, awaiting us in joy. May it be so. Amen. Right now, one of the ways we're invited to share our joy is if you created something as part of our